6 months later, Hyunwoo walked into the same council chamber, but everything had changed. The seating arrangement was completely different now. Instead of the major powers dominating the front rows while smaller species huddled in the back, every delegate sat in a large circle with no one position more important than any other. So Young still walked beside him, but she was no longer just a translator. Her new title was Director of Interspecies Communication, and her job was to help all species understand each other better. The Zilani delegate, Ambassador Kretal, was actually chairing the session. For the first time in galactic history, a minor species was leading a council meeting. The quarterly report shows remarkable progress, Kretal announced in her small but clear voice. Piracy has decreased by 97%. Trade disputes have dropped to almost zero. No new territorial conflicts have been reported. Around the circle, delegates from dozens of species nodded in agreement. Many of them had never been allowed to speak in council sessions before. Now they were active participants in galactic government. Captain Jin Ho took his seat in what was now called the Observer section, but his role had changed too. He was no longer secretly preparing for war. He was openly coordinating peacekeeping efforts across the galaxy. Human patrol fleets report all shipping lanes secure, he announced. The new escort system is working perfectly. Merchant vessels travel safely under protection. Economic Minister Namjoon Ryu stood to give his report. Galaxy-wide trade has increased by 400%, he said with obvious satisfaction. When species do not have to fear attack or theft, they are much more willing to do business with each other. The former major powers sat in their assigned seats, but their attitudes had changed dramatically over the past 6 months. Prime Speaker Sisleth of the Vextar looked uncomfortable, but he raised his hand to speak. The Vextar Dominion wishes to report compliance with all new regulations, he said formally. Our military has been restructured for defensive purposes only. It had not been easy for the Vextar. Their entire culture was built around conquest and dominance, but faced with the choice between change or extinction, they had chosen to adapt. Vexitar colonies are focusing on agriculture and manufacturing, Sisileth continued. We are learning to build instead of take. Some of the smaller species delegates actually applauded. The Vextar had been their primary tormentors for centuries. High Counselor Morgeth of the Mordane spoke next. His crystal body was stable now, no longer flickering with stress. The Mordane Collective has opened our technology archives, he announced. Advanced energy systems and communication networks are being shared with all species. This was perhaps the biggest change of all. The Mordane had hoarded their technological advantages for millennia. Now they were teaching other species how to build better civilizations. We have discovered, Morgeth added quietly, that knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied. Other species have improved our designs in ways we never imagined. Queen Tizelik of the Cliques made her report last. The insectoid species had faced the hardest adjustment since their entire social structure was based on hierarchy and control. The Cliques hive has restructured our labor systems. She clicked carefully. All workers are now volunteers with full citizenship rights. Cultural exchange programs now involve actual exchange, not servitude. She paused, her 4 arms moving in what humans had learned was a gesture of humility. We have also discovered that voluntary workers are much more productive than forced labor, she admitted. Our colonies are more efficient than ever before. Ambassador Jiwan Yang smiled as she stood to address the council. These reports demonstrate something important, she said. Peace is not just morally better than conflict, it is also more profitable. Dr. Yoon Ji-han had spent the past 6 months doing something she had never been able to do before, openly studying alien species to help them rather than to find their weaknesses. Biological compatibility studies show that 17 species can now share environments safely, she reported. Mixed colonies are being established with remarkable success rates. The screens around the chamber showed images of these new colonies, Vextar and Regani working together on agricultural projects, Mordane and Polani cooperating on technological development. Even some brave Cliques individuals choosing to live among other species as equals. General Tai Min Yu appeared on the communication screen with military reports, but they were very different from the ones he had given 6 months ago. Human peacekeeping forces have been reduced by 60%, he announced. Local species are taking over security responsibilities in their own regions. This had been the plan from the beginning. Humans did not want to rule the galaxy forever. They wanted to make it safe enough that everyone could govern themselves. The Vextar Defense Force has proven particularly effective at anti-piracy operations, General Yu continued. Their hunting instincts, when properly directed, are excellent for tracking down criminals. Islith actually looked pleased at this compliment. Mordane communication networks have been invaluable for coordinating security across multiple systems, the general added. Their collective consciousness makes them natural coordinators. And Click's organizational skills have revolutionized supply chain management for peacekeeping operations, he concluded. The former enemies were becoming partners. Fleet Admiral Wu Jin Li's final report was the most important. Human military forces are transitioning to exploration and research missions, she announced. 17 new solar systems have been surveyed for potential colonization by species needing more space. Colony ships from 6 different species are already en route to their new homes, she added. The galaxy is expanding peacefully for the first time in recorded history. Commander Eugene Park stood to deliver what might have been the most significant announcement of the day. The first, graduates of the Interspecies Military Academy are ready for assignment, she declared. Officers from 12 different species trained in human peacekeeping methods, but adapted for their own cultures and biology. The screens showed young aliens and humans working together, learning from each other, preparing to protect the galaxy as a united force. War college applications have tripled, Commander Park continued, but these students are learning how to prevent conflicts, not how to win them. Hyunwoo finally stood to give his own report, but his words were not about military operations or political changes. Humanity has learned something important over these past 6 months, he said, looking around the circle at all the alien faces. We thought we were teaching you how to be better, but you have been teaching us as well. He gestured to the mixed colonies shown on the screens. Vexter agricultural techniques have revolutionized food production on human worlds. Mordane communication methods have solved problems we did not even know we had. Click's organizational systems have improved our logistics beyond anything we imagined possible. So Young nodded in agreement. Every species has strengths that others lack, she added. When we combine them instead of fighting each other, everyone becomes stronger. Captain Seok Jin. Oh stood up from his seat with a final report that made everyone in the chamber smile. Interspecies marriage applications have increased by 2,000%, he announced. Love, it seems, knows no species boundaries. The chamber filled with sounds of amusement and approval from all the different species present. As the session ended, delegates who had once feared and hated each other were talking together, planning joint projects and sharing ideas. The Zelani and Vextar were discussing a joint farming initiative. The Mordane and Regani were planning a cultural exchange program. The Click's queen was actually laughing at something a human diplomat had said. Yunwoo walked toward the exit with So Young, but he stopped to straighten his tie one more time. The gesture that had once signaled the beginning of humanity's revelation now seemed just like a normal habit. Do you think it will last? So Young asked quietly. Yunwoo looked back at the chamber where former enemies were becoming friends. I think, he said with his familiar diplomatic smile, that we have given them something better than fear to hold them together. What is that? Hope, he replied. And the knowledge that someone is watching to make sure the bullies do not come back. As they left the chamber, Captain Jin Ho was overheard making a comment to his aide that would become famous throughout the galaxy. 30 years of pretending to be nice, he said with satisfaction. But you know what? I think we might actually be getting good at it for real. The galaxy would never be the same. For the first time in its history, it was united not by conquest or fear, but by the simple idea that everyone deserved a chance to live in peace. And somewhere in the depths of space, human patrol ships continued their quiet watch, making sure that peace endured. The age of human niceness had begun. And this time, it was not pretending. The council chamber remained silent for what felt like hours. The alien delegates stared at the screens showing their homeworlds under human protection, trying to process what had just happened to their entire understanding of galactic power. Finally, a small voice spoke up from the back of the chamber. It belonged to Ambassador Kretal of the Zilani, a species so minor that most larger powers forgot they existed. "What about us?" the tiny amphibian asked. "The smaller species who never threatened. Anyone?" Hyunwoo turned toward the Zilani delegate with genuine warmth in his expression. "You have nothing to fear," he said kindly. "This action was never directed at peaceful species." Commander Eugene Park activated new displays that showed human fleets positioned not around smaller worlds, but between them and the major powers that had been threatening them. "The Zilani colonies that the Vextar have been demanding? They are now under human protection," she announced. "The mining rights that the Mordain claimed in Zilani space? No longer valid." Other small species delegates began to whisper among themselves. For decades, they had lived in fear of the Council's major powers. They had watched the Vextar take territory from anyone too weak to fight back. They had seen the Mordain claim resources that belonged to others. They had witnessed the cliques treating entire populations as property. "The Rigani water worlds," Ambassador Jiwan Yang announced, consulting her datapad. "The Vextar occupation forces have been removed. The planet is returned to its rightful owners." A delegate from the Rigani began to weep. Their people had been driven from their homeworld 5 years ago. The Palani trade routes that were closed by Mordain claims, Economic Minister Nam Jun Ryu continued. "All reopened under human protection. Commerce may resume immediately." More small species delegates began to make sounds of relief and joy. They were getting back things they had lost years or even decades ago, but the major powers were not pleased. "This is madness," Prime Speaker Sisleth hissed, finally finding his voice. "You cannot simply rewrite the galactic order. The strong have always ruled the weak. It is natural law." Dr. Yoonji Han stepped forward with her medical scanner still active. "Natural law?" she repeated. "Let me tell you about natural law, Sisleth." She pressed a button on her device. The screen showed a biological analysis of Vextar physiology. "Your species evolved as ambush predators," she explained. "You attack prey that cannot fight back effectively, but when faced with equal or superior force, your instinct is to retreat and hide." The analysis continued, showing brain scans and hormone levels. "Right now, your body is flooded with stress chemicals that are telling you to run away," Dr. Hani continued. "Every Vextar instinct is screaming that you have encountered a superior predator." Sisleth's scales had gone pale, confirming the doctor's analysis. "The Mordain," Dr. Han turned to High Counselor Morgeth, "evolved as a collective organism on a resource-poor world. Your entire civilization is built around hoarding and controlling limited supplies." New displays showed Mordain psychology, patterns. "But humans come from a world with abundant resources and extreme competition," she explained. "We learn to innovate and adapt instead of just hoarding what already exists." "And the cliques," Dr. Han faced Queen Tizelik. "Your hive mind works perfectly when everything is organized and predictable, but humans specialize in chaos and unpredictable tactics." Queen Tizelik's clicking had become almost inaudible. "So you see," Dr. Han concluded, "natural law is working perfectly. A more adaptable species has replaced less adaptable ones as the dominant force." Intelligence Officer Jaewon Shin's hologram flickered back to life. "We have also discovered something interesting in our analysis of council records," he announced. New documents appeared on the displays. They were marked with official council seals, but the contents were shocking. "The major powers have been planning to divide the galaxy among themselves," Officer Shin reported. "The Vextar would control military operations. The Mordain would manage resources and technology. The cliques would provide labor through their cultural exchange programs." The smaller species delegates made sounds of horror as they realized they had all been marked for slavery or elimination. Every minor species was to be either absorbed or removed, Officer Shin continued. Humanity was to be kept as a useful servant race until you were no longer needed. The evidence was overwhelming. Secret meetings, resource allocation plans, population control studies. The major powers had been preparing to turn the entire galaxy into their personal empire. "This changes everything," whispered Ambassador Kreetal of the Zilani. "Yes, it does," Hyunwoo agreed. "It means we acted just in time." Fleet Admiral Woo Jin Lee's voice came through the communication system with new reports. Additional intelligence operations have uncovered weapons stockpiles on 14 worlds. Biological weapons, planet killers, stellar manipulation devices. The screens showed massive underground facilities filled with weapons that could destroy entire star systems. The major powers were preparing for a war of total conquest, Admiral Lee continued. Timeline for initiation, 6 months from today. Even some of the major power delegates looked shocked. Apparently, the full scope of the planning had been kept secret even from many of their own people. General Tai Min-yu appeared on screen from what looked like a massive weapons facility. "Human forces have secured all these installations," he reported. "The weapons are being dismantled or moved to secure storage." "What will you do with them?" High Counselor Morgeth asked fearfully. "Most will be destroyed," scientist Mi Young replied. "Some of the more advanced technologies will be studied to develop defenses against similar weapons. And some," she added with a cold smile, "will be kept as reminders of what happens to species that plan genocides." Vice Admiral Chan Woo-jung's communication came through from Luna Base. "Earth's defensive systems are being expanded," he announced. "Any future attempts at building superweapons will be detected and stopped immediately." The message was clear. Humanity had not just won this confrontation. They had made sure it could never happen again. Director Kunho Seo appeared with economic reports. "Analysis of the major powers' resource hoarding shows they were artificially creating shortages to maintain control," he announced. "These restrictions are being removed. Resource distribution will now be based on need and fair trade." Economic Minister Namjoon Ryu added, "The smaller species will receive development aid to help them build stronger economies and defenses. No one will be dependent on the major powers for survival." "This is not just about military control," Hyunwoo explained to the chamber. "This is about creating a galaxy where every species can thrive." Ambassador Jiwon Yang stepped forward with the final announcement. "The council will be restructured," she declared. "Every species gets an equal vote regardless of size or military power. Decisions will be made by majority rule with protection for minority rights." "The age of might makes right is over," she continued. "Welcome to the age of cooperation." Captain Seok Jin entered with reports from across the galaxy. "Human peacekeeping forces report complete success in establishing new order," he announced. "All former victims of aggression are celebrating. Refugee populations are returning to their homeworlds." The screens showed scenes of joy from dozens of worlds. Species that had lived in fear were finally free. Planets that had been occupied were welcoming their people home. But in the council chamber, the former major powers sat in stunned silence. "What happens to us now?" Queen Tizlik finally clicked. Hyunwoo looked at her with an expression that was not unkind, but was absolutely firm. "That," he said, "depends entirely on what you choose to do next." The holographic displays around the council chamber suddenly switched to new images. These were not the peaceful space scenes the aliens were used to seeing. These were live feeds from across the galaxy, and they showed human military forces in action. "What you are seeing," Hyunwoo announced calmly, "is happening right now." On the main screen, sleek human fighters swept through the Vextar outer defense perimeter. The reptilian ships that tried to intercept them were disabled with precise shots that left the crews alive but the vessels powerless. "Colonel Hyejin Kang is leading the assault on Vextar Station 7. Commander Eugene Park reported, reading from her datapad. "No casualties so far. All Vextar personnel are being safely evacuated before the station is secured." Spager. Sleth watched in horror as his people's military installations fell one after another. The human attacks were surgical, perfect, and utterly devastating to military capability, while preserving every life possible. "This is impossible," he hissed. "Your ships were not there an hour ago. Our sensors showed empty space." "Your sensors?" Intelligence Officer Jae-won Shin said from his hologram, "Have been showing you exactly what we wanted them to show you for the past decade." Another screen displayed the Mordane homeworld. Crystalline defense platforms that had protected the planet for centuries were going dark one by one. But instead of exploding, they simply stopped working. Major Do-yeon Lim specializes in electronic warfare. Dr. Yoon Ji-han explained. The Mordane rely heavily on their communication networks. When those networks are disrupted, their collective consciousness becomes confused and helpless. High Counselor Morgeth made a sound like breaking glass. His crystal body was flickering, so rapidly it was painful to look at. "We studied your technology for 30 years, Dr. Han continued. "We know every frequency you use, every encryption method, every backup system." She pulled out a small device and pressed a button. "We can turn your entire civilization on and off like a light switch." The Mordane delegate's crystal form went completely dark for a moment, then flickered back to life. The demonstration had lasted only seconds, but the message was clear. Queen Tizilik of the Cliques was making rapid clicking sounds, trying to communicate with her hive worlds. But the screen showed her colonies under human control. Cliques workers were being led to safety while human soldiers secured the military installations. "The Cliques' biological weapons laboratories have been neutralized," scientist Myung-oh reported. "All dangerous materials secured. Research staff are unharmed but under protective custody." "Protective custody?" Queen Tizilik clicked frantically. "Your scientists were developing weapons that could kill billions." Dr. O replied matter-of-factly. "We cannot allow that research to continue, but we will not harm them. They will be relocated to planets where they can conduct safe research under human supervision." General Tai-min Yu appeared on another holographic display. Behind him was clearly a Mordane command center, but human soldiers were at every station. "The 5th Army Group has secured primary military installations across Mordane space," he reported. "Total operation time, 4 hours, 12 minutes. Enemy resistance, minimal. Civilian casualties, 0. Military casualties, 0. 0? High Counselor Morgeth managed to ask. "Humans have a saying," Hyun-woo explained. "The best battle is the one you win without fighting. We prefer to avoid killing when possible." Fleet Admiral Woo Jin Lee's voice came through the communication system again. "Phase 2 operations complete across all target zones. All alien military assets are now under human control or have been disabled. Repeat, all major military threats have been neutralized." The screens showed the results. Across dozens of Star EO systems, alien military forces had been systematically dismantled. Ships were disabled, not destroyed. Bases were captured, not obliterated. Personnel were captured, not killed. "How?" Sesleth asked, his voice barely audible. "How is this possible?" "Because we are very good at war," Hyun-woo answered simply. "We have been practicing for our entire existence as a species." Captain Seok-jin Oh entered the chamber, his military uniform spotless despite having just coordinated a galaxy-wide operation. He carried reports from every human commander involved in the simultaneous strikes. "Human casualties across all operations, 0, he announced. "Alien military casualties, 0. Civilian casualties, 0. Mission objectives achieved, 100%. Dr. Hyojun Bayek stepped forward, carrying a medical scanner. "We also took the liberty of analyzing your biological systems during the operation," he said, consulting his device. "The Vextar have a specific vulnerability to sonic frequencies. The Mordane can be disrupted by electromagnetic pulses. The Clique's nervous systems are sensitive to certain chemical compounds." He held up small vials of different colored liquids. "Any of these could have eliminated your species entirely. We chose not to use them." The alien delegates stared at the vials in terror. "Why?" Queen Tizilik clicked weakly. "Why did you not simply destroy us?" "Because that is not who we are," So Young said, speaking up for the first time in an hour. "Humans are capable of incredible violence when necessary, but we prefer to find better solutions." Director Kunho Seo appeared on the screens, speaking from a massive space station that none of the aliens had ever seen before. Trade Station Alpha is now operational, he announced. All major shipping routes in the galaxy are under human protection. Pirates and raiders have been eliminated. Commerce can proceed safely under the new system. New system? Several aliens asked at once. The old system where powerful species bullied weaker ones is finished, Economic Minister Nam Jun Ryu explained, as he entered the chamber. The new system is based on fair trade, mutual benefit, and protection for all species. Fleet Commander Sua Hong's hologram appeared next to the others. Human patrol fleets are now stationed throughout the galaxy. Any species that attempts to prey on others will face immediate response. This is conquest, High Counselor Morgath said, his crystal body still flickering with stress. You are conquering all of us. No, Hyunwoo corrected him. Conquest would mean we take your worlds and make them ours. We have no interest in ruling your planets or controlling your people. General Yejin Chung appeared on screen from what was obviously a Click's hive world, but human flags now flew alongside the Click's banners. Local governments remain in place, she reported. All civilian leadership unchanged. Only military command structure has been modified to prevent future aggression. We are not conquerors, Hyunwoo continued. We are, how would you say it? In your languages? He paused, thinking. Guardians, protectors, the species that make sure everyone plays nicely. Ambassador Jiwan Yang walked to the center of the chamber. The Galactic Council will continue to exist, she announced, but under new rules. No more demands for territory that is not yours. No more threats against civilian populations. No more slavery disguised as cultural exchange. And if we refuse? Sisleth asked, though he already knew the answer. The screens around the chamber showed human fleets still positioned around every major alien world. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, weapons that could level planets. Then you will discover what humans are like when we stop pretending to be nice, Hyunwoo said quietly. The silence stretched for long minutes. Finally, High Counselor, Morgath spoke, his voice like the sound of crystal bells in the wind. What do you want from us? Hyunwoo smiled, and for the first time in the meeting it looked genuinely warm. We want you to be better, he said. All of you. We want a galaxy where species work together instead of preying on each other. We want trade based on fairness instead of force. We want exploration and discovery instead of conquest and slavery. Looked around the chamber at each alien delegate. We want peace. Real peace. Not the kind where the strong take whatever they want from the weak. Captain Jin Ho stood up from his observer seat. The choice is yours, he announced. You can join us in building something better, or you can discover what happens to bullies when they meet something stronger than they are. The council chamber had never been so quiet. Every alien delegate stared at the screens showing human fleets surrounding their homeworlds. The numbers were impossible to believe, but the evidence floated in space before their eyes. Hyunwoo walked slowly around the chamber's central platform. His diplomatic shoes made soft clicking sounds on the metal floor. Each step echoed in the silence. I want to tell you a story, he said, his voice carrying easily through the large room. It is about a species that learned very early that the universe is not a safe place. He stopped in front of the Vextar delegation. Prime Speaker Sisleth had not moved since the human fleets appeared on screen. His reptilian eyes were fixed on the displays showing his homeworld surrounded. Humans did not start as the strongest species on our planet, Hyunwoo continued. We were not the fastest or the largest. We did not have claws or thick skin or poison glands. He held up his hands, showing his small human fingers. We had these, and we had our brains. Dr. Yoon-ji Han stepped out from the observer section. She had been sitting quietly during every council meeting for 5 years. Most delegates probably did not even know her name. I have studied every species in this chamber, she announced. The Vextar evolved on a warm planet with few predators. Your aggressive behavior is mostly for show. She looked at Sisleth directly. Your scales look impressive, but they are weak against projectile weapons. Sisleth hissed in alarm. The Mordane developed on a crystal world with limited resources, Dr. Han continued. Your collective consciousness makes you excellent at cooperation, but terrible at quick individual decisions. She turned to face High Counselor Morgoth. Your entire species can be paralyzed by attacking your communication networks. The Mordane's crystal bodies began flickering rapidly with stress patterns. The clicks come from a hive world where everything was organized and predictable, Dr. Han said, looking at Queen Tzilik. Your species has no experience with true chaos or unpredictable warfare. Queen Tzilik's clicking became high-pitched and panicked. But humans, Dr. Han smiled, and it was not a kind expression. Humans evolved on a death world. New images appeared on the screens. Not space battles, but scenes from Earth's history. Ancient humans hunting massive beasts with primitive spears. Warriors charging across battlefields while arrows rained down around them. Soldiers fighting in trenches while explosions shook the ground. Our planet tried to kill us in every possible way, Hyunwoo explained. Ice ages that froze our ancestors for thousands of years. Volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun. Earthquakes that split the ground beneath our feet. He paused, watching. The aliens' reactions to the images. And we survived all of it. Commander Yujin Park entered the chamber, her military uniform a sharp contrast to the diplomatic clothing everyone else wore. She carried a datapad that displayed more statistics than any alien wanted to see. Earth's current military strength includes 400 billion active soldiers, she announced. 2 trillion reserves, 15,000 orbital platforms, 43,000 ships of various classes. She looked up from her datapad. This does not count the colonial militias or the civilian defense forces. Several alien delegates made choking sounds. The Vextar Dominion has 40 billion soldiers total, Commander Park continued. The Mordane Collective maintains 12 billion defense units. The Clix Hive controls 30 billion workers, of which perhaps 3 billion have any combat training. The numbers were devastating. Even combined, all the alien species in the chamber could not match human military strength. But those are just numbers, Yunwoo said, waving his hand dismissively. Anyone can build ships and train soldiers. What makes humans different is something else. Intelligence Officer Jaewon Shin appeared on the main display screen via hologram. He was speaking from somewhere else, somewhere the aliens could not identify. For 30 years we have been inside your governments, he announced calmly. Every trade negotiation you held, we knew about in advance. Every military planning session, we had agents present. Every secret weapon you developed, we stole the plans. The chamber erupted in panicked noises from the alien delegates. The Vextar's new plasma cannons? Officer Shin consulted his notes. We have been mass-producing improved versions for 8 years. The Mordane energy shields? We cracked the technology and built better ones. The Clix bioweapons program? We developed countermeasures before you finished your first prototype. Queen Tzilik's forearms were shaking. This is cheating. Cheating? Hyunwoo laughed, and the sound was not pleasant. Your species demands 1 million of our children as slaves, and you call us cheaters for being prepared? Scientist. Myung-oh walked to the center of the chamber. She carried a small device that looked harmless enough, but every alien in the room instinctively leaned away from her. This is a standard human atmospheric processor, she explained, holding up the device. It can adjust the air mixture in any enclosed space, very useful for making alien environments comfortable for human workers. She pressed a button on the device. The air in the chamber changed slightly, becoming thinner and cooler. It can also be used to make environments very uncomfortable for specific alien species, she continued. Several of the alien delegates began breathing more heavily. The Vextar need warm, humid air. The Mordane require precise gas mixtures to maintain their crystal structure. The Clix die quickly without their specific atmospheric blend. She pressed the button again, and the air returned to normal. The aliens gasped in relief. We could have killed every delegate in this chamber just now, Scientist O said matter-of-factly. Instead, we chose to demonstrate restraint. Fleet Admiral Wu Jin Lee's voice crackled through the communication system. All human fleets report ready for Phase 2 operations. Orbital bombardment systems are locked onto military targets across 17 systems. No civilian areas are targeted. Phase 2? High Counselor Morgoth managed to ask, his crystal form still flickering with stress. The gentle demonstration is Phase 1, Hyunwoo explained. Phase 2 is when we actually start fighting. He straightened his tie again, a gesture that had become habit over years of diplomatic meetings. Phase 3 is when we stop being nice about it. Vice Admiral Chan Woo-jung appeared on another screen, speaking from Luna Base. Behind him, massive weapon systems were visible through armored windows. Luna Base has been operational for 28 years, he announced. Every council delegate who has ever visited Earth has seen our mining operations on the moon. He smiled grimly. What you saw were weapon emplacements, big ones. The screens showed the moon as the aliens had never seen it before. What looked like simple mining equipment was actually artillery that could strike targets across the solar system. The entire lunar surface was covered with hidden military installations. Earth's moon is not just our satellite, Admiral Jung continued. It is the largest fortress in known space, and it is aimed at everyone who thinks humans are weak. Captain Jinho finally stood up from his observer seat. For 15 years he had sat quietly in these meetings, taking notes that everyone assumed were just diplomatic records. Every council session has been recorded, he announced. Every insult to humanity, every demand for our territory, every threat against our people. He looked around the chamber at the frightened alien faces. Our citizens have watched all of it. They know exactly how you have treated us. What are you saying? Sisleth asked, though his voice was barely a whisper. Hyunwoo smiled his diplomatic smile one last time. I am saying that the human species has voted. We are tired of being nice. 3 months later, the Galactic Council met again. This time, the chamber buzzed with excitement from the alien delegates. They had enjoyed their easy victories over the humans and wanted more. Hyunwoo walked into the chamber with the same calm smile he always wore. So Young followed behind him, her translation device ready. Captain Jin Ho took his usual seat in the observer section. To anyone watching, it looked exactly like every other council meeting for the past 30 years. But this time was different. This time the aliens had gone too far. Prime Speaker Sisleth stood up, his reptilian body gleaming under the lights. The Vextar Dominion has been pleased with human cooperation, he announced. Today, we make new demands. He activated a holographic display that showed Earth's solar system. The Vextar require the human moon for military use. It will become our forward base for operations in this sector. Gasps came from some of the smaller alien species. Even they seemed surprised by this demand. The moon was not some distant mining station. It was visible from Earth itself. High Counselor Morgeth of the Moradane chimed his agreement. The collective supports this decision. We also require the planet humans call Mars for our research facilities. More murmurs filled the chamber. Taking a species' home moon and neighboring planet was almost unheard of in council history, but the powerful species seemed confident the humans would simply agree. Queen Sleek of the Cliques made her clicking sounds. The Cliques have requirements as well. Her 4 arms moved as she spoke. We need 1 million young humans for our hive worlds. Cultural exchange, we call it. The chamber went completely silent. Even the other aliens seemed shocked. Everyone knew what cultural exchange meant when the Clique said it. The insectoid species used other races as workers in their hives. Most never came home. So Young's translation device shook slightly in her hands as she heard the demand. Captain Jinho's face remained perfectly blank, but his knuckles went white as he gripped his chair. Hyunwoo stood slowly. His smile never wavered, but something had changed in his eyes. Honored council members, he said in his usual polite voice, I believe there has been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, Sisleth hissed. These are demands, not requests. Humans will comply. Yes, Hyunwoo agreed, still smiling. There has definitely been a misunderstanding, but not about your demands. He walked to the center of the chamber, moving with the same calm dignity he had shown for decades. You see, my species has been very patient, very polite, very nice. Some of the alien delegates laughed. The Vextar made their hissing sounds of amusement. The Mordane chimed in harmonies that sounded like mockery. Humans are weak, Queen Tsilik clicked. You give us everything we ask for. You have no choice. Hyunwoo nodded thoughtfully. You are right about one thing. We have been giving you what you ask for. But you are wrong about why. So Young had stopped translating. She was staring at Hyunwoo with wide eyes. This was not the script they had practiced. This was not how diplomatic meetings worked. We have not been giving you our territory because we are weak, Hyunwoo continued. We have been giving it to you because we wanted to see how far you would go. The laughter in the chamber began to fade. Some of the aliens were starting to look confused. For 30 years we have watched you take our mining stations and claim our trade routes. We have listened to you insult our species and call us weak. We have smiled and said yes to everything. Hyunwoo's voice remained calm, but it carried a new weight. We have been very, very patient. Captain Jin-ho quietly activated his communication device. Across the galaxy, sleeping systems began to wake up. But demanding our moon? Hyunwoo shook his head. Demanding our neighboring planet? Demanding our children? He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every alien delegate. That is where patience ends. Prime Speaker Sisleth rose from his seat, his massive body casting a shadow over the human diplomat. You dare to refuse the Council's demands? You have no power here, human. Power. Hyunwoo repeated the word like he was testing how it sounded. That is interesting. Tell me, Sisleth, what do you know about human history? You are a young species, the Vextar leader replied dismissively. Barely 3 centuries in space, no military worth mentioning. 3 centuries, Hyunwoo mused. You are right. We are very young compared to your people. But in those 3 centuries, do you know what we did? The chamber was completely quiet now. Even the background humming of the building's systems seemed louder. We conquered our entire planet, Hyunwoo said simply. Every continent, every ocean, every inch of land and sea and sky, we made ours. Not through diplomacy, not through trade agreements, through war. Some of the smaller alien species began to shift uncomfortably in their seats. We fought wars with weapons that could burn entire cities. We built machines that could fly faster than sound and submarines that could hide beneath the waves for months. We sent armies of millions across our world and back again. Hyunwoo paused, letting his words sink in. And then we looked at the stars and said, what else can we conquer? High Counselor Morgeth's crystal body began to flicker with stress patterns. This is just boasting. Humans have shown no such capabilities. Haven't we? Hyunwoo asked. At that moment, every screen in the council chamber activated. The displays showed space around the chamber's orbital station. Where there had been empty blackness moments before, now there were ships. Hundreds of ships, thousands of ships, human ships. They appeared like ghosts materializing from nothing, their sleek hulls reflecting starlight. They were nothing like the small, peaceful vessels the Council was used to seeing from Earth. These were warships, bristling with weapons and armor plating. Stealth technology, Hyunwoo explained casually, as if he was discussing the weather. We have been perfecting it for 25 years. Every time you made us give up a mining station, we left behind a few ships. Every time you forced us to close a trade route, we stationed a fleet there. Every time you pushed us out of a system, we built a base. More screens activated showing views from across the galaxy. Around every major alien homeworld, human fleets were decloaking. The numbers were staggering. Queen Tsilik's clicking became rapid and panicked. This is impossible. Our scouts would have detected you. Your scouts, So Young said quietly, speaking for the first time since the displays activated, were mostly human. The revelation hit the chamber like a physical blow. For decades, the alien species had relied on various scouts and informants to monitor each other's activities. Many of those scouts had been humans, polite and helpful humans who asked for very little payment and seemed grateful for the work. Dr. Yoon-ji-han, our xenobiologist, has been studying your species for 30 years, Hyunwoo continued. Every biological weakness, every cultural blind spot, every military doctrine and strategy. On the screens, More human ships continued to appear. The numbers went from hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands. Admiral Subin Choi commands the Third Human Fleet, Hyunwoo said, gesturing to one of the displays. She is currently surrounding the Vextar homeworld with 12,000 ships. Cecileth made a choking sound. General Taimin Yu has positioned the 5th Army Group near Mordane Prime. Colonel Heejin Kang has taken control of the clique's outer colonies. The reports continued. Human forces were everywhere in perfect position to strike at every major alien power simultaneously. This is war, Cecileth finally managed to shout. No, Hyunwoo corrected him gently. This is a demonstration. War is what happens if you do not listen very carefully to what I say next. The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a soft hiss. Hyunwoo Park stepped inside, his black diplomatic suit pressed perfectly. Behind him walked So-Young Kim, carrying her translation device and wearing the same polite smile she had worn for years. They moved quietly to their assigned seats at the very back of the chamber. Around them, the other species filled the grand hall. The reptilian Vextar sat in the front rows, their scales gleaming under the bright lights. Their bodies were large and muscular, built for war. Next to them were the Mordane, creatures made of living crystal that sparkled and chimed when they moved. The insectoid cliques buzzed in their corner, their forearms clicking together as they talked. Hyunwoo had been coming to these meetings for 15 years. So-Young had been his translator for 10. They knew exactly where to sit, how to act, and what to say. Always polite, always agreeable, always willing to compromise. The humans are here, hissed Prime Speaker Cecileth of the Vextar. His long tongue flicked out as he spoke. Good. We have much to discuss today. So-Young translated quietly for Hyunwoo, though he understood the alien languages perfectly. It was part of their act. Let them think humans needed help understanding. Let them believe humans were simple and weak. The session began like all the others. High Counselor Morgoth of the Mordane read out complaints against human colonies. 3 mining stations had supposedly been built too close to Mordane space. A human trade ship had taken a route that the cliques claimed was theirs. We apologize, Hyunwoo said when called upon. His voice was warm and friendly. Earth will move the mining stations immediately. We did not mean to cause any trouble. The aliens nodded, satisfied. This was how it always went. Humans said sorry, and fixed whatever the council demanded. It had been this way for 30 years, ever since Earth first joined the galactic community. Queen Tizlik of the cliques made a sharp, buzzing sound. The humans are too weak, she clicked. They give up everything we ask for. Perhaps they do not deserve their colonies at all. Some of the other delegates made sounds of agreement. The Vextar laughed, showing their sharp teeth. The Mordane chimed in harmonies that sounded like broken glass. Hyunwoo kept smiling. So-Young kept translating. But in the observer section, Captain Jin Ho Nam of the Earth Defense Force sat very still. His finger tapped once against his leg, then twice. Anyone watching might think he was just bored. So-Young saw the signal. Her smile became just a little bit tighter. We have new demands today, announced Prime Speaker Cecileth. He stood up, his full height making him tower over the other delegates. The Vextar Dominion requires use of the human asteroid mining belt in Sector 7. For military exercises, Hyunwoo nodded slowly. We understand your needs, he said. Perhaps we could work out a sharing agreement. No sharing, Cecileth replied firmly. We take complete control. Humans leave. The Mordane Collective spoke next, their crystal bodies ringing like bells. The Mordane require the human colony on Kepler 442b for research purposes. The humans there will relocate. Of course, Hyunwoo agreed. We want to help with your important research. More demands came. The cliques wanted 3 human trade routes, closed. The Vextar claimed 2 more asteroid fields. Smaller species that rarely spoke up suddenly had complaints about human activity near their space. With each demand, Hyunwoo agreed. So-Young translated his acceptance with the same gentle voice she always used. The aliens grew more excited, making louder noises of approval. They were dividing up human territory like it was a cake at a party, but Captain Jin Ho had stopped tapping. His hands were now folded in his lap, completely still. This was another signal, one that So Young hoped she would never see. The session is going well, So Young whispered to Hyunwoo in Korean. She knew the aliens could not understand their language. Are you sure about this? Hyunwoo's smile never changed, but he replied softly. 30 years, So Young. 30 years of being nice. I think that is enough. High Counselor Morgeth stood up, his crystal form reflecting the chamber lights. The Galactic Council is pleased with human cooperation today. Earth shows wisdom in accepting its place in the galactic order. The other delegates made approving sounds. To them, humans were the perfect servants, always giving up what was asked, never fighting back, never causing trouble. What they did not know was that every human in the chamber was trained for this moment. Hyunwoo had not become Earth's chief diplomat by being weak. So Young had not learned 17 alien languages just to be helpful. Captain Jin Ho had not spent 20 years in the Earth Defense Force by accident. In the back of the chamber, near the exit, Dong-hyun Lee sat quietly reading a datapad. He looked like a simple clerk, someone who took notes and filed reports. But his clearance level was higher than anyone in the room suspected. The messages he was reading were from Earth, from Luna Base, from colonies across human space. All the messages said the same thing. Ready. The meeting continued for 2 more hours. More demands were made. More human territory was claimed. More insults were thrown at the weak human species. Through it all, Hyunwoo kept smiling, So Young kept translating, and the human observers kept taking notes. As the session ended, Prime Speaker Sisileth made one final announcement. Next quarter, the Vextar will present new territorial requirements. We expect full human cooperation as always. Of course, Hyunwoo replied, standing and bowing slightly. Earth always seeks to maintain peace. The aliens filed out of the chamber, talking excitedly among themselves about their new acquisitions. They paid no attention to the humans gathering their things. Why would they? Humans were harmless. But as the last alien delegate left, Dong-hyun Lee finally looked up from his datapad. His finger moved across the screen in a specific pattern. Across the galaxy, in hidden bases and disguised facilities, other humans saw the same signal appear on their screens. The pretending was over. Captain. Jin Ho stood and walked over to where Hyunwoo and So Young were packing their diplomatic bags. Sir, he said quietly, all stations report ready for Phase 1. Hyunwoo straightened his tie, a habit he had developed over years of diplomatic meetings. But this time, it was not just a nervous gesture. This time, it was the signal that changed. Everything, tell them to begin, he said softly. The age of human niceness was about to end.